According to a study by Women's Aid, almost 1 in 2 women with disabilities suffers violence in their lives, making them twice as likely as non-disabled women to suffer it. She describes Sarah's experience of suffering various physical illnesses that keep her alive as well as psychological problems, while trying to escape the violence that she has suffered from her husband. Another problem that the story reveals, and which may be at the heart of Sarah's story, is the lack of appropriate facilities for people with disabilities in shelters. The story was about a topic I hadn't thought about before, and I'm ashamed of disability and domestic violence. As we all know, abuse is often a matter of control. Sarah, for example, described how her husband isolated her by removing her motility car and keeping her prohibition in the house for days or even weeks. It's not because of the refugees or their staff. Sarah points out how kind the shelter staff were to her, but because of the chronic lack of money. We are also told that Refugio, the charity that administers 42 sanctuaries in 23 local authorities across the country, says that only a third of the women it supported in 201,718 had 1 or more disabilities. The story goes that their difficulties in finding private rental housing, while relying on social benefits. Social housing is efficient and unavailable due to huge waiting lists. It appeared last week in The Guardian under the title "I'm Tired and Desperate: A Disabled Victim of Domestic Violence in Her Struggle for Survival." The first problem is that a high proportion of domestic violence victims have a disability. As a strong advocate for family law news content, I often find real stories in the media about people's experiences with family law. We must ask ourselves why so many people with disabilities are mistreated by their partners and why the state treats them so cruelly. I suspect the answers would make it very difficult to read. In addition, Sarah is constantly concerned about the lack of public services and the lack of free therapy in the age of gravity. All of this obviously adds an insult to the injuries these victims of domestic violence have already suffered. The other part concerns the lack of respect for people with disabilities. Sarah had to fight from top to bottom for lack of elevator and fell twice. Sometimes she was practically confined to her room this year.